Guys, we seriously didn't have a reason to make this review. I mean, one of us has hearing damage and
this other one just doesn't give a flying about sound.
But you guys wanted to hear about our views on the Moondrop Crinacle Dusk. So here you go. Namaste, we are DHRME. Don't have reason to make or exist.
Okay, so first off, there's a little bit of a mystery. We have no idea who sent this out to us. It could have been that it was because we were Crinacle's patrons, or it could be Shenzhen Audio.
But whoever did send this out to us, thanks a lot. Maybe leave a comment down below. Now, we like wireless audio products for a reason here on DHRME. We value ANC, transparency, phone calls, a compact form factor on the go, and we're really not that nitpicky about sound. We're not audiophiles, but we do like good audio.
Well, at least one of us does. The Dusk is more interesting in that it is Fuckman compatible. So you get this with two different cables. One is terminating in a 3.5mm audio jack, pretty standard audiophile fare, but the other one has a DAC and termination to USB Type-C.
Which means you can use it with phones or devices that support audio over USB Type-C. Even better, the cable with the USB Type-C termination has a microphone built in and volume controls.
So you know what that means. It's time to look at Crinacle's popsicles, icicles, and test.
So testing the Moondrop Crinacle Dusk using the USB Type-C cable and microphone. Popsicle, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. Popsicle, ice, icicle. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Without the Moondrop Crinacle Dusk, does this sound different? This is the stock iPhone camera. Alright, this is the Moondrop Dusk in very noisy conditions. Popsicle, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. Popsicle, ice, icicle, testing. 1, 2, 3. And this is what it actually sounds like in this cafe.
Well, there we have it. In quiet conditions, these mics are as good as anything else. In wind as well, I was surprised as to how well they did. And they do so well because, well, hardware trumps software or AI every time in these conditions. However, this hardware falls a bit flat when you want to filter out your voice in noisy environments. I mean, the mic is closer to the mouth, so it does work better than nothing, but you can pretty much hear the noisy environment in all its glory. It's still better than what many other true wireless earbuds can do. At least the person on the other end can hear the noise as well as your voice. So the mics are a mixed bag.
I bet you didn't see many mic tests for this product. Now, Fuckman controls, you get volume, answer, and hang up. There is a mute as well, but it is a little bit unpredictable. So long pressing the middle button for mute on Android mutes the call as it should. It also shows up on your screen as muted. Long pressing again unmutes it. So far so good, right?
But on iPhone, the call stays muted as long as you hold the middle button down. After you release it, mute is released as well. What is worse is that you don't see the mute enabled on iPhone, but you do on Android.
Alright, let's talk about the build. The cable is really nice at about 126 centimeters for both the USB and the 3.5mm variants. These are long enough that they could fit in my knee pocket. I don't have a pocket there, but you know, if that ever comes in vogue. I like the length for a desktop setup too. It's quite comfortable to, you know, put a laptop away from you and still be connected. The cable is braided and uses a material that doesn't really transmit any sounds due to rubbing and other things.
There's a standard 2-pin connector that is a bit difficult to pull out, which is a good thing unless you pull out too often. I'm a committed kind of guy, so a solid seal is enough for me. The case is something people seem to be liking, but I find it a bit silly as to how big it is. I guess I'm so used to the magnetic cases of true wireless earbuds, which kind of snap nicely into place using magnets. I haven't had to use a zipper for a while, if you know what I mean, but coming back to build, you just get 3 sets of Moondrop style spring tips and a nice leather case with a zipper and a pocket in it.
And most importantly, let's not forget, you get an airplane adapter, because that's what you want on an airplane. To be using your pricey audiophile earphones with the crappy airplane entertainment. Having said that, I really enjoy the hardware on this. It's nice that the earbuds have a transparent look to them. Transparent means virgin plastics, but hey, I guess they look quite good. And you can see the dynamic balanced armature and planar drivers ending into this opening which you shove into your ear holes. We also have the Crinacle Zero Red, but I always saw that the nozzle size was a bit too painful for me to use even after like 15 or 20 minutes of use. So I'm pleased to see that even though this has more drivers, it has a more comfortable nozzle diameter, and I didn't really have any problems using these for hours at a time.
Let's talk about buttons, because you know what, this USB-C cable has 3 buttons: volume up, volume down, and play or pause button. There is a bit of a recess, but not enough for my fat fingers. Also, no nubbin or protuberance, which makes it a bit harder for my fingers to easily guess which the play and pause button is. But it is doable because the entire volume rocker is fairly big and has enough of a target surface area for you to feel around. The buttons do feel fairly firm and have a decent click to them, so I think they might last.
Now let's get down to sound. You know what? This is DHRME. We review wireless products mainly and almost no wired products, even though I do have a few IEMs lying around in this drawer here. So let's see how this goes for you guys.
Moondrop, Moondrop, Moondrop. Why do you not have a decent app? It's the same garbage Moondrop app which you have to sideload and give access to your entire file system. Why can't they just make a normal, legit app? Because they obviously have the budget to develop the app. And why can't they distribute it via the proper sources? If you don't have the money to make an app, that's one thing, but you do have the money, but choose to distribute it via sideloading. It just doesn't sit well with us. Also, no iOS app that we could see.
Why do you need an app though? Well, for one reason and one reason only: to EQ the shit out of these earphones. That, and you can update firmware. There's literally nothing else you can do in the app. In addition to the Dusk default, you get 4 additional tunings which you can select from the app, but you also get a very powerful parametric EQ, something you nerds could use instead of going outside and having to talk to real people. You get 9 bands. You can custom select along with a Q factor to get that peak or dip exactly how you like it, but ain't nobody got time for that. So what I did was basically listen to it using the presets. Frankly, I do not think you need this app, and if that's what you're worried about, don't, I guess, because you can use these without the app as well on the default DSP EQ that Crinacle provides. Now, I'm sure there are third-party parametric EQs you can use to change how these earphones sound. So again, there's not a reason to get this app. All right, the volume on these is pretty insane. At least 50% on my Galaxy Z Fold 5 was pretty much in hearing damage territory for me. Funnily enough, on the iPhone, this was very different. I needed 2 or 3 notches higher on the iPhone, which is kind of weird. And both of these were using Apple Music. So there you go. However, this is kind of where you really enjoy the value wired cables give you. No custom codecs or ecosystems, just plug USB-C in and you get the same high quality sound from either product. Now, we have heard that there is some sort of, hiss and noise issue on certain phones, or at least for certain people. We are not sure this is a phone specific thing, which have a very cheap, USB out on cheaper phones, but for us this was not a problem, and also we don't have that great ears. The tunings sound very similar on Android as well as iPhone, and yes, you can use the EQ presets with iPhone too, but you will need an Android phone for it. Confused? Any EQ preset you select stay on the cable or the DAC, so switching to another device maintains your EQ profile. So if you have the Moondrop app on your Android, select the desired EQ and plug it into your iPhone. The change preset is what you're hearing. Although for some reason I'm having trouble changing the EQ just now before I started shooting this video, but let's hope that that solves itself. Okay, so that most certainly did not solve itself. In fact, I'm having a hell of a time, and not in a good way, graphing the Moondrop Dusk, because I have had to reset the app, restart the app, even restarted my phone a few times. And what's happening is really weird. Sometimes the left channel gets stuck on the default tuning and the right channel gets stuck on the bass plus tuning. There's an example here on screen and I really don't know what to do about it. Initially, I thought I made a mistake, so I erased everything, started up from scratch, restarted the phone. And this has been happening for the last 2 or 3 times. I've also checked with a few other reviewers. They don't seem to be having this problem. So it could be just a phone thing or a unit variance thing, but this is super annoying. I just wish they didn't have this at all and maybe just had a slider on the cable itself where you could just switch between tunings. But hey, maybe this is just me. So we're going to go ahead and show you the rest of the review in case it works well. Crinacle, if you're listening, maybe this is a unit variance thing or it is a DSP app thing. I'm using the Z Fold 5 from Samsung. Maybe it's a phone thing. Let us know. Alright, let's talk about sound. I like the 3.5mm bass sound quite a bit, but found that the treble was a little bit too spicy for my taste. Also for my use case, I ain't using a 3.5mm headphone jack, so I just decided to go with USB. I'd characterize it as clear and really wonderful for vocals. Now I did think there was some timbre issues in the upper end, but the bass is very controlled, very good. It's not in your face, but it is kind of one of the highlights for me on these IEMs. The texture and speed of bass for me was very, very satisfying, and the mid and sub bass are very clearly delineated, and there's no merging of the two worlds. Now, while the quality is great, I do need a bit more quantity personally. And so I tried the bass plus tuning, but it was way too dark for my taste. I wouldn't recommend it. Coming to the mids, I decided to whip out my Tool playlist on Apple Music for this, and the sound of driven guitars were perfectly on point. On Numa, the distorted power chords really set my teeth on edge. Probably need to go to the dentist. The vocal harmonies were clear and you could hear the individual voices if you really paid attention. The only place where I thought the tuning was a bit weird was the snare drums. Then Chilliwack's opening acoustic riff on Fly By Night gave a good representation of the acoustic guitar, especially through what I think is a piezo element, because it certainly didn't sound like there was a microphone in that guitar. On the treble, these can definitely do treble, but the default tuning was not my favorite. For example, on Kesha's Resentment, the S's stood out a bit too much. Overall, these didn't come across as a wow, this blows my mind kind of sound, but there was so much right with it, especially in the mids, in the vocals, that naturalness of the sound and the clarity and the space. I really, really enjoyed those things. So this product at 329 euros, I would absolutely recommend it. What I would also recommend is not downloading that damn app, because A, you can probably fix EQ with other apps, and B, the thing is really causing problems for me now with the left and right channels being imbalanced. So I'm going to figure out how to reset my unit, but this might be the first set of wired IEMs that I might actually use regularly, simply because I don't need additional accessories like a DAC, and they have an inline mic with a remote and volume controls. These things are important to me. To boot, these are comfortable, and although they don't provide ANC or multipoint, there is also the advantage of not having to charge them at all, and multipoint is just unplug and plug in. The lovely sound does not hurt either.
Wired IEMs are also just by definition more sustainable and longer lasting than that wireless products. So that helps.
Let us know if you want to see more content like this. This is kind of an experiment for us. We have not done wired IEMs before or wired headphones. And of course, thank you guys for all your support, and especially to our wonderful patrons and YouTube members and our Fuck Month tier supporters, Paula, Gamma Panda, and Radioactive Iguana Dude. You've been watching the Dusk Drop.
And we've been DHRME. Dooey! This other one just doesn't give a flying futz about sound. It's time to look at Crinacle's Popsicles, Icicles, and Test database, which is the biggest in the world. We've seen it.